Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us here at the Dwellynn Show. I'm your host, All the Dancers on the Dwellynn Show. I'm super excited to talk to Jason Fondu. He's the CEO of WhyHotel. A very unique concept here in the DC Baltimore market. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So, Jason, I mean, I've been doing some research about WhyHotel and just pop-up hotels in general, and your name came up, and I was just super excited to get you on the show. Can you just tell our Dwell listeners, a little bit about yourself and kind of your journey that led up to, founding WhyHotel?
Sure. So, my background's in kind of institutional real estate development. So, I used to build high-rise apartment buildings for rent. I did that for a company called Vornado in the DC metro area, and for a company called P.N. Hoffman. While being a developer and building high-rise buildings, it became obvious that they're brought to market in an inefficient way. And that inefficiency is that you open a brand new apartment building, you spend millions of dollars to do that. You open it empty. And then you slowly fill it up with residents. And the reason you slowly fill it up with residents is that when people sign leases, they're normally 12 months long. And so it takes you about a year to fill up a building with residents because you want the leases turning over regularly. You don't want them to all turn over at once. And so that means it takes a year no matter what. And that leads to hundreds of vacant units that are just vacant for no good reason. And so, in my own life as a real estate developer, I recognize this inefficiency, and I brought it to the attention of the company I worked at, Vornado. And they said, yeah, go for it. Let's see if you can come up with a solution to solve it. And that was the genesis of WhyHotel.
I mean, I was reading a little bit about, the name WhyHotel, right? And it's kind of like the curiosity, the kind of childhood curiosity you and, Bo, your partner, right? So
yeah,
can you just kind of Bow, yeah, sorry. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how that came about and the founding? I think it's really nice.
Yeah, so I mean, Bao and I would say that we were why kids. Like, mommy, why this, why that, why is the sky blue, and it's this constant desire to question and understand, not question for the sake of question, but really to understand. Bao and I are all about kind of learning. We're perpetual learners. And so it was with that question that we said, why is it done this way? Why? And so, we played around with a lot of names, and we landed on WhyHotel, which is why hotel when you can have a place like home. And it was meant to pose a question to travelers, for God's sakes, why would you ever want to stay in a small little room when you can stay in a brand new apartment building with the greatest amenities, the greatest of spaces, that is managed and operated much like a hotel with 24/7 on-site team and a set of people, locals who are there to host you in this great experience.
And I really love what you talked about, like you're blurring the lines between hospitality and home, right? So that's a really unique concept, right?
Yeah, so I would actually say that there's kind of two major forces at play. So one is what's been happening in conventional hospitality, and then the other is multifamily, and they've kind of started to come together. So in the hotel world, it used to be you built a room that was too small to be an apartment, but bigger than you needed just to sleep. So maybe you squeeze the desk in there, you have a second bed, maybe, and that was it. And it was like 300, 400 square feet. And so someone who literally just needs a bed for the night didn't need all that space. And so that's why the hotels and the pods of the world exist, right? It is a place you go for one night, you just sleep there and you leave. On the other end of the spectrum are people who are looking for a like home stay. A business traveler Monday to Thursday every week's in town who wants to be able to live when they're there like a person that's like a local. Or families traveling, where they want to be able to put so I have an 18-month-old. You take your kid and you want to be able to put him in a bed and close the door, and then, put your feet up, stream your favorite shows, open a bottle of wine. And that product didn't really exist in a meaningful way for travelers. Doesn't really exist. And so, there's the vacation rentals of the world, the Airbnbs, the HomeAways, where in a kind of more of a discovery in an inconsistent way, you can find homes to stay in. But we thought, to the extent that we can bring the service level of a hotel, but the spaciousness of a home to travelers, that would be kind of an unmatched space. And what's great for travelers is it's now in that spectrum of home, And what's great for the multifamily side is that there's this catchphrase in residential rental today: service is the new amenity, right? So it used to be, the best pool, the best gym, and now those are just prerequisites for a high-end apartment. And the next level is service. And so people in the hospitality world are trying to kind of remove services because it's really expensive. And people in the residential world are trying to add them. And so if you remove a bunch of traditional hotel services like room service, F&B, that kind of stuff, and you're left with a kind of self-directed stay with 24/7 on-site staff, and you add some services to residential, so like room cleans, free room nights, linen service, dog walking, they meet in the middle, and that middle is our perfect little sweet spot where our on-site team offers amenities to the residents as well as this self-directed like home stay to guests, and it comes together really nicely.
It is really fascinating, isn't it, Jason? I mean, I did so much reading about it. I'm feeling so excited about this concept as well. So for someone just kind of, listening in on our conversation of this idea of pop-up hotels, as it's called, what are other benefits, right, to maybe a developer listening to this and they've got some units coming up and they're in the process of leasing up? What other benefits can that, developer get from subscribing to Why Now?
Yeah, so let me walk you through the life cycle real quick. So a developer's about to open a high-rise building. In advance of that opening, we go and we secure regulatory approvals for a hotel use. So we pull a hotel license, we secure a certificate of occupancy for hotel use. We do everything like you would a traditional hotel. And then in advance of opening, we take 100 or more units and we fully furnish them, all the telecom, housewares, again, everything you'd see in a home. And so about 90 days before we open, we start listing all these for bookings. We start getting reservations in advance. We onboard a team. We train them. We hire local. In Baltimore, over 50% of all of our employees are Baltimore City residents. And we think that's really important because the people that are hosting you should know the city, right? This should be their home. And so for the developer, we're bringing that to bear, right? All of that's in place. We're 24/7 on site. And we tell the developers, look, we need a certain number of months in the building in order to make this make sense because it is an effort to pop up. But if you're going to lease up your building in 8 months or longer, that's plenty of time for us. And so what they do is they give us access to that inventory. We pop up the hotel, and then the developer stands to have kind of interim income. And so they're making additional money while we're there. The long-term value of the building is still unfurnished apartments, which is what pop-up means. We are temporary. We plan on being in no building for longer than 24 months. Our first pop-up was 5 months. We expect our next to be somewhere between 8 and 24 months, and that's just kind of what we do. So developers sees interim income. They also see benefits to the residents. So residents can get free room nights. They can get all sorts of services like linen services and cleaning. They also have a place to stay if something goes wrong. So, new buildings always have issues, water leaks, appliances don't work. And for the developer, instead of having to go put these folks up in a hotel somewhere, they can stay just down the hall, right? They're an elevator ride from their clothing and their stuff. And for developers, it also represents a chance to have people kind of try it before you buy it. So we see a lot of, hey, I just took a job in Baltimore. I'm a nurse at Mercy Hospital. Haven't figured out where I want to live yet. Well, come stay with us for 3 or 4 weeks, get settled in, and then you can either choose to live in this building, which you've come to love, or you can find another place. And so it ends up being a great leasing tool for developers as well, because a lot of our guests end up becoming residents.
So you got me, that's a fascinating model. You got me thinking though. So you've got all these CapExes in the front end, pulling the permits, getting the place furnished, and then you're kind of in and out, like you said, no more than 24 months. How does your monetization strategy look like? And is it pretty robust, considering all that I've just mentioned?
Yeah, so I can't get too much into the numbers, but I can say that the whole system is designed to be temporary in nature. So all the furniture is rented. The CapEx is fairly low, and that is on purpose. So for us, we need to be in a building for at least 6 months for it to have been worth the effort. But after 6 months, we will have more than made back our upfront costs and the cost to turn the units back. And then at that point in time, It really is just a function of how long it takes the developer to fill it up.
I mean, it's really interesting because I interviewed someone, a developer. She's actually in London, where I'm from, and I bet she would love this idea. But over there, what she did was she would Airbnb the units, right, before she actually, sells it or get a tenant in there. So my question to you, Jason, is: are you thinking of global domination? Like, are you thinking of going to other markets in Europe or Asia, maybe?
We are thinking of global domination. We are not there yet. The model really works for any major city in the world, and the systems we're building, the back end tech systems, the yield optimization, channel management, and the brand all translate well internationally. We're just not quite there yet. My wife's British. She's actually in Scotland right now. And so, I would love to make it over to the UK, because then I could see my in-laws all the time for work, so that wouldn't be so bad. But today we're very focused on the United States, and the major gateway markets here.
So what would you say would be kind of like the outlook in terms of 5-10 years? What are you guys, what kind of growth markets or growth strategies are you thinking going forward?
Yeah, so I would say 10 years from now, we would expect to be in pretty much every major urban market in the United States, a number of secondary markets, and hopefully we'll have expanded internationally at that point in time, and maybe rolled out another product or two. So we have very big aspirations. We stepped down from executive roles at large organizations to go build our own thing, and we did that with I wouldn't say world domination, but we did that with our plan is to be the engine of change in both multifamily and hospitality across the United States and internationally. And so that's no small task, and that is what we are kind of set out to do. So.
Before we get into the quick run, I think that's a really good segue to the question I was thinking of. So you did step down, you and your partner, you stepped down from a pretty good corporate job to go after this dream, right?
Yeah.
And this is, some of the kind of a quagmire that real estate investors, face. Like, should I quit? Should I not? What would you say to somebody listening to this, where they're kind of thinking, I want to leave my 9-to-5, but I'm not sure. I want to go into real estate investing full time. What would you say to that person? What would be your advice to that person?
So we stepped down from, I want to say cushy, but we stepped down from senior roles. I was managing a couple of $1 billion of development for Vornado. I mean, large positions. And I could not be happier. I mean, so I'll start with that. Anyone who's considering leaving their conventional corporate job to go do their own thing, I'm the happiest I've ever been. But prepare yourself for the emotional roller coaster. My wife would say that in a single day, I might go from being elated to just absolutely just disappointed. And it's not linear. It doesn't follow like this beautiful little, if the trajectory is right, you're great. And then however major the opportunity looks, just kind of be prepared for there to be things that don't go as planned. So if the opportunity is small, it's not worth the jump, because one or two little things going out as planned, and you're now not, the opportunity is smaller. So I would say if the opportunity is huge, then it's okay, because if you skirt around the margins of huge, you're still doing something significant.
That's a good one. Yeah, you'll just describe it perfectly well. The entrepreneurship journey is just ups and downs. It's never as it seems. There's a lot of folks that watch HGTV, for example. The flipping shows. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go flip a house," but really, flipping a house does not look as glamorous as it does on TV. So I'm glad you mentioned.
Yeah, it's not, but you can feel the energy though. There's something very different about building your own thing, and being able to kind of set the culture, set the tone, bring in the people you love, and grow an organization that of like-minded folks, and that's really cool.
That's the amazing part of entrepreneurship.
That is the amazing part.
Right. So we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready?
Yes, go for it.
All right. First question. What would you say makes you unique? What's that differentiating factor that separates you from the next girl or the next guy?
I am very analytical and creative. And so that's an interesting mix. And so that helps me kind of solve complicated problems, but do it in a way that's technically sophisticated.
I like that. Second question, what was the last book that you've read, and what was the one thing that you picked up from that book?
The last book I read, oh geez. So I read Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs, and I think it's called Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I think so.
The one thing I picked up from that is that people can be successful even with major faults, and so not everyone. I mean, if you read the book, basically it describes Steve Jobs as an absolute creative genius and a cruel manager. Cruel as in like humanly cruel. And I would say that for me, the biggest lesson I took from that is that you get one chance at culture, and so don't screw it up. But it's you read the book and you're like, oh, as a handful of people have had such an impact on the world, the business world, and as you're reading that, it really hits home. We're like maybe 40 people now. We're a small group, but it doesn't take many people to do really big things.
Totally agree. Last question. You've got an 18-month-old baby. I have a 15-month-old baby, so I can totally relate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to you too. And you're managing WhyHotel. You've got your team. You're building the culture. What do you do for fun?
Just hang out with the baby. I don't know. There's really not that much. I don't know. I hang out with my wife. I hang out with the baby. See family. I was just in New York this weekend for my dad's 60th.
Nice.
So we did a whole thing up there. I don't know. I'm a family person, so work and family are most of my. I used to exercise. I got to get back on that. I have squeezed that out of my life, but yeah, I love family time. There's nothing better. So I'm trying to build my own version of family at work, and then I have my family at home, and that's it. Those are the hours.
Yeah, sounds very familiar to me. So if there's a Dwell listener listening on our conversation, they're like, wow, I really like this Jason guy. Or I love this idea of pop-up hotels or WhyHotel. How can people reach out to you? Where's the best place you're most active?
So people can choose to note by email. Hello, HELLO, at WhyHotel.com, WhyHotel.com. And I'll get it. And it's probably the best way to reach out, or shoot me a note on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And we have a team of people on the partnership side, customer side. If anyone's interested in partnering on a building, that would love to take a look at your project and do a full underwriting. So,
thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate you making time out to chat with us at the Dwellynn Show. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me. This has been great.